want to talk a little bit more about this idea of moving counter to the oppressive ways that society has said that we need to move. And I mean this in the way that we dance. I mean this in the way that we move every single day, quite literally, with our bodies. The way we walk, the way we swim, the way we run. Like, I'm literally talking about, just going into a field and running wildly the way that you want to, right? And I'm talking about the power of getting out of ourselves in that way, getting out of out of the structures that we think that we need to get into. So that's another thing that I just want to encourage this fall equinox is, as you go throughout your day, make it a little practice or a little experiment. Can you, as you're walking, notice the different textures, the different weight, the different ways that you put your feet down on the ground? Are you going heel toe? Are you going toe heel? All of these different things. Are you putting more weight on one foot than the other? Are you sort of falling into a hip or not? Like, are you swaying your hips or not? Is your chest out? Is your chest down? Is your weight more forward or more back? Noticing these things as you go throughout your day and seeing if you can kind of query it or bring it into a more liminal space. So how can your walk for 1 minute of your day be free? Just a free kind of way of walking, or a free kind of exploration of how you're going to walk. So I think I'm actually going to talk about some of the astrology of this time to give you some ideas for exploring movement, embodied ways of being during this time. And so just to give you a timeline of where everything is. So the fall equinox is happening on Sunday, September 22nd. There is a full moon lunar eclipse happening on the 17th. Then there is a solar eclipse happening October 2nd. The sun goes into Libra on Sunday at the moment of the equinox, which is interesting because Libra is a sign that is ruled by Venus. Libra is all about the scales of justice. Venus is an interesting one because it's definitely a sensual planet. Venus wants to have us feel and sense, and anything that's tactile, or use of the voice and use of the body, and the way we see things, aesthetics are very important to Venus. So anything that just has this flair of beauty to you, or art or creativity. Venus is very feminine in quality, very receptive, wants to bring in. I'm doing all these movements with my face and my hands. It's I just think about something really sweet that you can eat. I think about sweetness in general. That's Venus, right? And so that is the ruling planet of Libra. So we have to remember that first and foremost, that is that's Libra's MO, right? So as we go into this first bit of fall, thinking about what is being initiated in us in terms of that, and thinking about just if we just take that, just Venus, and we could explore that physically, in any way. So take that playlist that I'm giving you, take one of the songs, and just try to explore this idea of Venus. What is Venus to you in your body? What is sweetness? What is sensuality? What is this feeling of like, mm, mm, just so nice, right? Like, what is just so nice on your skin, on your body? That's what I feel when I think about Venus. So then we add another layer to Libra, though. Libra, because there are two signs that are ruled by Venus, both Libra and Taurus, but they're very different. Libra is outward, relational, going out to sort of express Venus. And Libra's really going to hone in on our relationships. So how can we practice this as a body when we are exploring movement? So can we notice how our body is in relation to objects in the room? Because no matter where we are, there's never going to be a completely empty room. There's always going to be stuff around. So what are the sensual sort of feelings that we can have as our body, even the air? As my body touches the air, as my skin touches the air, as my hair touches the air, as my hand touches my head, as my different body parts come into contact with one another. This is relationality. We're practicing relationship within our body, within the small space that we are in. If we are to go into nature, how does my body relate to another being in nature? If it's a tree, if it's the grass, if it's the sand, if it's the water. Libra is also an initiator. It's a cardinal sign. So it is a spark. It is the breath of fresh air. I always think about it because it is an air sign and it's coming in and shifting everything for us. So we were just in this kind of, liminal space of mutable earth with Virgo. We're in that until the 21st. 22nd, we shift into Libra, and it's like this kind of thing, right? The air comes in. Libra, so how can we also explore this as a movement? How can we explore what is it like to actually use our body to explore that kind of breath of fresh air idea? How can our body be awakened, alive? How can it come into something and start something? How can it initiate? Where are things beginning in our bodies? So this kind of idea. And if we just move through the whole fall season, we go into Scorpio. Scorpio is a fixed water sign. It is ruled by Mars, which is kind of the opposite planet to Venus. It's kind of got an opposing need. Venus has this need to connect, to come together, to merge. Mars has a need to separate, to define, to set boundaries, to protect. And we need both of these energies, right? Mars, is going to be viewed as a bit more severe, but it's more real. We need those boundaries. We need these edges. Otherwise, we don't know where we stand, and it can be a bit, Libra can be a little bit too nicey nice sometimes, whereas Scorpio is going to give it to you real, because it has that Mars, that Martianness to it. The modern ruler of Scorpio is also Pluto. Pluto is very much about complete transformation, excavation, just taking everything apart. So, and then Scorpio is a water sign, which is very emotional, so very deep emotions, very, very, very deep down, where in the stillness of the darkest lake, that's the kind of water that Scorpio has. So if we think about movement in the body, what are the ways that we can express water with our body? But not just water, there's all different kinds of water, right? There's the rivers, there's the streams, there's the waterfalls, there's the waves. But what about the water that is deep, deep, deep within a lake, that's very still, that's very constant, but is still liquid nonetheless. So what is that quality in our body? And how can we explore that? That sort of like dark water, that water that like Scorpio season is so important because it is consistent and it helps us to stay with one thing. All of the fixed signs help us to stay with one thing and just see it through, whatever it is that we're doing. So Scorpio is really going to help us with this, um, this period of like, I think because it's emotions, because it's the water, it's really like Scorpio can become stagnant with emotions, right? Like Scorpio energy can cause stagnation or holding on to something for too long in terms of emotions. But it also, if we tap into it in as a helpful, style, we can be very consistent and very loyal with our emotions. So we're not being wishy-washy. We're not going from one thing to the next. We're saying this is what we're doing, and we're going to keep to it. And so, what are the ways that we can also, again, like bringing it back to the movement? What are the ways that we can explore this with our body? What are the simple sort of movements that we can practice that are of that fixed, consistent, intentional energy? Water is inward. So this movement is also going to be very, it's going to be kind of contained. As much as one can contain water, Scorpio isn't like all over the place. It's not like this untamed wild water like Pisces. So as you explore with your body the water of Scorpio, it really is a little bit more contained, I'd say. Contained in the sense that it's not going all over the place. It's not like, it's funny because like Scorpio wants to get to the root of things, but it's not necessarily going to be like super messy on the outside. Like Scorpio's going to have their shit together. So like even movement wise, as you're exploring this quality with your body, really think about that. It's not unfinished. If we continue going, the final part of the fall is going to be Sagittarius season. So we have our cardinal sign of Libra, and then we have our fixed sign of Scorpio, and then we have our mutable sign of Sagittarius. Sagittarius, being a mutable sign, is all about transitioning us from one season to the next. So it's getting ready. Again, like I think mutable signs, I've been using this word a lot, liminal, but mutable signs are the in-between, the liminal space. It's kind of like, actually I was thinking about this, the beach is a liminal space. And I think a friend of mine actually was talking about this in a theater work that she was making. I won't name her, she might be watching this. But the beach is in between the shore and the ocean. It's neither one nor the other. It's the bridging place, and we need it. Like there needs to be that transition, and that's what mutable signs are. Sagittarius is a sign that brings us from fall into winter. It's going to be a little bit of fall, it's going to be a little bit of winter. The interesting thing about Sagittarius coming at the end of fall is that it is a fire sign, and so it just being a fire sign, it feels like it's going to be associated with warmth. But it comes at this time when like the earth is kind of like winding down. And so I find that really interesting. So Sagittarius is a fire sign, and because it's mutable, it is a very, I'd say, scattered, it might be the right word to use. I'm a person who has a lot of mutable energies, so just like take me and imagine that. Like basically that. Like mutable energy, Sagittarius, it's gonna be fire, 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 all these different like creative fiery things going on. It is not a consistent energy. It's not like a staying power energy. But Sagittarius does have a goal. Like, this is the thing about mutable signs that I've been thinking about, is like mutable signs, mutable energy, people who have this like woo-ness to them. It's like it gets seen as scattered, and I even said it, but there is a goal, and the goal is to transition, and the goal is to take little pieces of all the learnings and pull from everything and not discount anything and not be too stubborn and not be too closed-minded and be open to all of the different learnings and pull from all of them. So if we're exploring with our body, what are all the little fires going on in your body? What are all the little pops of energy that you can play with? Like, you could play with that for a few songs, right? Just like little pops of fire, just all over, little sparks flying. I actually picture Sagittarius fire energy. Again, it's just like little fires all across the land. And if we think about that in terms of like revolution, that's what we need, right? We need lots of little mutable mutual aid fires burning all around. And so how does that feel in our body, right? Like, how does that energy feel? How can we explore that as a movement? How is that an energy that we can learn from and put into our bodies? So fire, mutable, Sagittarius, again, is very outward. Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter is a very expansive planet. It wants to make everything bigger. It wants to bring abundance. But Jupiter is also about like a kind of faith, or a kind of like, it definitely rules religion, but it can also just be about a belief. What do we believe in? That like philosopher vibe. Somebody with a lot of Sagittarius is going to be a person who's very good at commanding a room, has a lot of like is very able to like do speeches. What is that energy that we can cultivate within ourselves with our bodies? Notice for yourself, when do you kind of go inward, and when do you find that pizzazz to like hold yourself open and to be expansive and to take up space? I feel like Sagittarius knows very easily, very well, how to take up space. And so where does that come from in your body? Hello, my friends. Okay, so I'm just going to add a little bit of like bonus stuff at the end here, because I felt like I had a lot of talking, and the one thing that is difficult about sort of this asynchronous offer is that like I don't really get to like dance or move with you, so I thought I'd just try to replicate that a little bit, or at least have this chance for us to like move together if that's something you want to do. I think I'm just gonna give these little snippets, and I'm gonna give like just little prompts, and then we'll dance a little bit, and then I'll come back and give you another prompt, and you can then you can like put whatever music you want on if you want. I'm gonna be dancing with the ocean and the waves and the birds, so feel free to do that also if you want. So the first thing that's really inspiring me is the wind, is the air, is that feeling of like air on my skin. And if I relate it to astrology and I relate it to the fall equinox coming, then Libra is an air sign. Libra is something that's, again, like rushing into the season. There's this breath of fresh air, and I really just want us to take this moment to feel that and to really tune in. I think like it's something we really take for granted, right? And what if the wind actually moved us? So the wind as our dance partner, or the air as our dance partner. And I want to say too that even if you're in a place where there isn't any like really strong wind going around, there's still air. There's still, and you can make the wind with your body. And what is it to dance and to dance with the intention of feeling your body cutting through the air or bursting through the air? So let's just go with that for a couple minutes. Okay, the next thing that I'm feeling inspired by is the idea of very simple letting go, because the fall equinox is so closely tied to the lunar eclipse that's just happened, and we're really rushing in with this energy of eclipse season, as eclipse season lasts until October 2nd, and it's really kicking off the fall equinox for us. So this idea of letting go of the things that really don't serve us, and really letting go of things that are not just ours but are other people's, like our things that we came into this life with that we had no control over, things that were taught to us that we had no control over, things that we've continued to carry as survivor mechanisms or survival mechanisms, or what we think are survival mechanisms but are actually very deeply related to individualism. And if we really want to practice a new world and a world of living collectively, then we have to start being ready to let go of these things. So I'm going to be encouraging you to do a movement exploration that is inspired by the words letting go. And some other words that I'll bring up are expel, so to expulsion, to expel. How about like reject, throw away, get rid of. I think of like actual like vomiting, like throwing up, but I think also of the word exercise, like to like The Exorcist, like having something kind of pulled out of your body by force. Let's just go with that energy for a little bit, of just like taking something and throwing it out of our bodies, throwing it and getting rid of it. Something that I'll also encourage to use your voice. I think the last one that I want to just kind of explore together and give you a bit of an example for is that idea of Sagittarius and lighting all these little tiny fires that just kind of spread and go around everywhere that they need to go and don't really necessarily feel like they're all connected, but they are. And so, yeah, just going with that idea of fires, little tiny fires all over.